Another season of Hell's Kitchen has come and gone, and I gotta say, after the absolute banger of a season that was the American Dream, I had some hope that season 23 would capitalize on the previous season's momentum and deliver a season that was just as good. And did it in my opinion? The answer is, kind of. I think in order to get a real opinion on the season, we have to sort of take a step back. That of course means, spoilers inbound. Hell's Kitchen Head Chefs Only right from the get-go was interesting just based on its concept alone. A lot of the gimmick seasons in Hell's Kitchen ranged from expected, to wasted, to failed, to something alright. But Head Chefs Only is an interesting case because it was the first gimmick season that seemed to have a really interesting gimmick behind it. To sum up,
Head Chefs Only? Egos only!
The idea of all these head chefs in one kitchen meant two possible scenarios. The season's cast would be among the most talented in the show's history simply based on the history of executive chefs making it far into the season and even winning, and there being a lot of egos clashing. We did get the latter scenario of this season's cast being probably one of the most talented in the show's history, where even the first boot got a 3 on our signature dish, and a 3 is pretty much a B when it comes to a first boot. When it comes to egos clashing and the drama that comes as a result of it, it was, here and there, I guess. This is not to say the season didn't have drama or any narrative of the sort, but to be honest, I think one of my gripes with the season is that I didn't really find it that engaging. The stuff of Egypt being seen as too overbearing and Anne-Marie being outcast isn't bad, but I wouldn't say it's anywhere above fine. I still prefer this over anything Elise does in season 9 at the very least, but I wouldn't put these two anywhere near my favorite narratives. Alright, I think this is the perfect time to talk about the cast itself. As mentioned earlier, the cast itself is probably the most talented in the show's history. During the Signature Dish Challenge, in addition to the low score being a 3, which just so happens to be the first boot, at least 7 chefs managed to score a 5, a Hell's Kitchen record. Not only that, but on several occasions there were so many ties that Jared has officially been barred from Thanksgiving. And these ties were not just a 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, they went up to 5-on-5. Even the challenge that had the most struggle on average in the blind taste test still had Amanda get a perfect score, and even Whit and Hannah did pretty damn well. That's objectively really impressive, and I'm not someone who talks about cooking skill or has been objective all that much. Ignoring the skill level itself, the cast is decent. It's not a cast I'm going to remember a lot of, but the cast is generally decent and rootable. Egypt is a likable underdog, Hannah's chill and sympathetic, Whit before her blow up was really cool, Anne-Marie is really fun and has gotten way too much unneeded hate, and even chefs eliminated before the top 10 like Anthony and Magali are really likable. Not only that, but some of the chefs I don't have that much to say about do have some moments of being pretty funny. Like out of everyone from this cast, I don't think Lulu will have been the chef who is recipient to the most memes. I'm also going to give a lot of praise to the sous chefs, in particular Michelle. While James is not my favorite sous chef, I think it's generally agreed that he usually does a pretty good job. Michelle, on the other hand, I know a lot of people have their brows raised, especially considering she's not a very popular winner. But she really did prove as to why she won her season. Her whole conversation with Hannah and keeping her from quitting I think is the biggest example of this, and I think it's given a lot more people some appreciation for her. Not enough to say that she should have won the season, but she does do a pretty good job for a first time as sous chef. Of course, the biggest highlight of this whole cast is without doubt Kyle. I think everyone can agree that Kyle is a god among a decent, if somewhat fine cast. The man just absolutely rules the confessionals, having some of the best quotes and moments of the season. His whole go-kart experience lives rent-free in my head. The dude's just the god of self-confidence. I wish I even had a fraction of it. God knows I need it. Oh, you know what else I need? A decent transition. Oh, I guess I'm not getting... This season has a lot of bizarre eliminations. You thought All-Stars was the king of questionable eliminations? Well, here comes season 23 of the steel chair. So many chefs went out in surprising ways, from Megan, to Joe, to Brandon, to Anthony. Hell, Anthony alone reignited the whole hatred for the Cook for Your Life challenges despite the challenge being relatively okay for the past few seasons. Do I think his elimination was unfair? And I say the conditions on how he was nominated was a bit questionable. I think there could have been better ways, but if I had to choose a worse dish, then yeah, it'd be his. I guess the only two I say are questionable entirely are Joe's, mainly because I feel that Amanda had a worse charity service than him, and Megan's because the reasoning is a bit silly. We've seen plenty of chefs be given more chances despite their team obviously not wanting them around, so to see Megan go home because her team gave up on her despite being nominated twice in a row is just a bit off to me. Perhaps the most shocking elimination was one that occurred relatively early in the season, and it was the very first triple elimination, where Shant and Uri both withdrew due to injury, and Corbin did so badly in the following service that he got the boon spot of 2 chefs on blue going. It was definitely one of the biggest talking points of the season, especially since we haven't had 2 injury-related departures in the same season since Season 5, but the idea of a triple elimination for many fans seemed almost impossible. Well, it happened, and honestly, I don't think it's as impactful as others say it is. Yes, it's a shocking moment without a doubt, but I really don't think this triple elimination was as massive as, say, G from Season 5. Mainly because I don't think they stood out that much for the time we knew them. I know the immediate argument for this is that G lasted an episode less than these 3, so the same could apply to her as well, but the main difference was that G immediately established herself as a frontrunner with her high-scoring signature dish and her pleasant personality, while Shant, Uri, and Corbin got good scores on their dishes in a season where nearly everyone got good or great scores, and they were not particularly interesting. Uri maybe a bit more, but Shant and Corbin, outside of their brief feud, I feel are mostly forgettable. Hell, I go as far as to say that Shant, even if he didn't have to leave, still wasn't going to last very long. Uri is a who knows, but still, I just don't think this elimination is that impactful. This also kind of leads into what my biggest issue of the season is. It's not one that severely harms it, unlike Elise in Season 9 or everything in Season 16, but it's one that kind of knocks it down to decent rather than being outright good. I noticed a sort of trend in some of these seasons where around the top 14 mark, the show kind of settles into what I like to call stagnation mode. It's where chefs who aren't obvious donkeys get eliminated because they don't have a lot going for them, either in a cooking or personality department, and those episodes, up until around the top 10, give a bit of extra time for some chefs to find their footing. It's something that's been around for years, with seasons 9 through 13, 21, and even 22 kind of doing this. It's not a bad thing, and I think the show kind of knows this part can be somewhat boring, which is why it's a lot more common to see a double eliminations or ejections around this part, but I think that those portions of the season are when it's at its least interesting. I think what did harm the season for me is that because of the triple elimination happening so early in the season entered stagnation mode way too quickly, meaning some chefs who really would have benefited from that extra time just kind of ended up being mostly nothing. And unfortunately that even applies to chefs I'd say I genuinely liked. Megan, Magali, hell, even Anthony, all 3 of whom were chefs I feel could have had more to offer, but just didn't. It's why I never really thought any of them were going to win in the end despite of them being solid chefs. They just never really gave me that vibe. But overall, I wouldn't say that it hurts the season too much for me. It's more of a fear as to why I think some people don't vibe with the season that much, and while I do understand it, I'd say give it a shot honestly. The season really does start to pick back up again after the Cook for Your Life challenge with great moment after great moment. Head Chefs Only is a pretty decent follow-up to one of the best seasons in a while. It's got some extremely high talent and a cast that's not half bad when it comes to entertainment. I guess if I were to rank this season against the other seasons, I'd probably put it around season 19. Not top 5, meaning for the quick shift into stagnation, but overall, solid season. As for where I rank Kyle in terms of favorite winner, I put him at, let's say, number 6. I probably need to rewatch season 21 to determine if I really like him more than Alex. But that's it for me. If you like this video and want to see more, then feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Eternal Opossum, out.